This is Pet Life Radio. Let's talk pets.
The views expressed by guests on this program do not necessarily represent the views of the host or owners of the Doggy Diva show and do not necessarily constitute endorsement of products. Medical information discussed by guests on this program are those of the guests and is only for informational purposes and should not replace medical advice by your local veterinarian professional.
Hi, this is Susan Marie from the Doggy Diva Show. This week, how service dogs are helping veterans with PTSD. That's what's on our show this week. Let's get started.
Hey, did you hear that? What is that? It's the bark heard round the world. The Doggy Diva Show. Here's national award-winning author and animal advocate, Susan Marie.
Hi, welcome to the Doggy Diva Show, the show for animal lovers. I'm your host, Susan Marie, and as always, I'm joined by my canine co-hosts, the Doggy Divas themselves, Francesca, Coco, and our newest little diva, Miss Olive. Miss Olive is the cute little Italian Greyhound rescue in the picture with the microphone. Thank you for joining us today as we bring the experts in the pet and animal world right to you. Contact us at thedoggydiva.com. That's the DOGGYDIVA.com. We love hearing from you. So go grab a cup of coffee and your pet's favorite treat, and we'll be back in just a moment.
Pets are part of the family. Make sure you can always afford the quality health care they need with Easy Pet Check, a nationwide pet insurance alternative. With Easy Pet Check, you'll save up to 75% on all your pet's health care at any licensed veterinarian in the U.S. Easy Pet Check accepts all dogs and cats regardless of pre-existing conditions. Visit EasyPetCheck.com. That's the letters EasyPetCheck.com. Taking care of your pet can be easy with Easy Pet Check.
Take a bite out of your competition. Advertise your business with an ad in Pet Life Radio podcasts and radio shows. There's no other pet-related media that is as large and reaches more pet parents and pet lovers than Pet Life Radio. With over 7 million monthly listeners, Pet Life Radio podcasts are available on all major podcast platforms. And our live radio stream goes out to over 250 million subscribers on iHeartRadio, radio.com, TuneIn, Stitcher, and other streaming apps. For more information on how you can advertise on the #1 pet podcast and radio network, visit PetLifeRadio.com/advertise today.
Let's talk pets.
Let's talk pets
On Pet Life Radio.
Pet Life Radio.
PetLifeRadio.com.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Doggy Diva Show. Inspirational speaker, mentor, and author Christine Hassing brings awareness to the level of healing that service dogs bring to those living with PTSD and trauma in her book, Hope Has a Cold Nose, an incredible collection of 23 true stories of veterans and the unwavering support they receive from their service animals. With us today to share with us in the enlightening and inspirational book, Hope Has a Cold Nose, is author Christine Hassing. Welcome, Christine, to the Doggy Diva Show.
Well, thank you. It is truly my honor and privilege.
Thank you. You have authored another book, a memoir, and you also have a very diverse professional background. Can you share some of that with our listeners?
Certainly. Thank you for asking. So maybe the simplest way I can say is the first part of my career was I was blessed to live from the mind. And on that journey, I think I started to also lead from the heart. So I worked in the pharmaceutical industry, so I was certainly focused on health care for others. And then my memoir was based on who I consider was my soulmate in fur on Earth. And when she was diagnosed with cancer, I felt that she was also telling me the purpose in that was so that I would write a story. And I started that, and that turned into a book. And on that journey, it also led me to writing life stories for people that were in hospice. So I was writing their end-of-life stories. And along that journey, I started a master's program, and I was also friends actually have Hope Has a Cold Nose dedicated in part to her, who was diagnosed with cancer, and she had 2 young children. And at a certain point, it was realized that she was not going to win that fight. And so we started to write letters for her children that she would leave for them when she was no longer on earth. And at the end of her life, in her last letter, I had made a vow to her that I would make her story matter, because she lived life with such hope until the very last day. And shortly after that, my path intersected with a veteran, the very first veteran you'll read about in Hope Has a Cold Nose. And we were in a class together, and we were given an assignment in which we needed to do something creative we had not done before. And though I had wrote life stories through hospice, I had not wrote a story for someone who was not knowingly dying. And I found a story that was filled with such hope. It was filled with a love of dogs, which was near and dear to me, and was also filled with the power of holistic healing, which was also something I was very passionate about. And I guess they say the rest is history. I just felt very drawn, especially when I didn't realize until I'd met this veteran that 22 lives a day end in hopelessness. And I wanted to be a part with these co-authors to try to help people not give up.
Well, the inspiration obviously was something that was meant to be. And I loved the book. It was very enlightening. It was very heartfelt. And the format of having the veterans tell their own compelling and these extraordinary, extremely heartfelt stories I found very powerful. Can you tell us why you chose the format that they tell their story? It was actually their words, and the contributions were so heartfelt. What drew you to that format?
You know, I will say a couple of different things. One, I always feel that when we listen to someone's story, we're being given a very sacred honor to be trusted with their hearts. And especially these veteran stories that would share things that they didn't find easy to share with really anybody. And so part of it was to really honor that incredible gift of trust they gave me. The other is, I think it's my way of trying to reframe someone's story, that they could look in a mirror and find I don't necessarily think beauty is the right word, but find a way to heal and see their story in a positive way, if you will, and maybe that can help soften the pain of their story. So it's my way of trying to reframe for them that they really have lived an extraordinary story, even if they find their stories very hard to face.
That's very compelling, and that's like a gift what you just did. And in reading Hope Has a Cold Nose, I found that the theme was, we are a team, we saved each other, we came into each other's life for a purpose. How important is that to the healing of these veterans, that these animals, their companion animals and themselves, they form this, it's like a bond. And those of us, of course, my audience is all animal people, so they know that bond we're talking about. But this was like a very special bond coming at a special time in their life. So can you tell us how important that is to the healing process?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, again, twofold is one, I would have veterans share with me, and let me first say, I am a civilian, meaning I don't have experience in the military, but so many would share with me this bond that happens when you are serving beside your brothers and sisters, and how much each other has each other's backs. And they would share with me that then when they came back from deployment and they were civilians again, how much they found it so hard to not feel that sense of somebody having their back. And so their service dogs have their back in that same way for them. And then the other is, we're all humans, and so we all have our own experiences. We all have our own battle scars, if you will. And so as much as we try to listen unconditionally, we still are listening conditionally. And we also in our own minds think, okay, somebody else must be thinking this about me. And so it becomes even harder for us to share those things because we're already judging ourselves and we perceive somebody else is probably judging us. So these veterans would talk about the conversations they could have with their service dogs, and they felt that just in the eyes there was an understanding. So they didn't need words responded back. They just needed someone to listen without judgment and not think that their story was bad or shameful or wrong or that they were letting somebody down if they felt what they felt. So I think those are two of the biggest healing contributors in the relationship that these veterans and service dogs have.
And reading the book, and all the stories were extremely compelling, heartfelt, very eye-opening. And I have military in my family, but the feelings were very eye-opening to me. And one of them quoted author T.D. Jakes, "A setback is a setup for a comeback." I felt that was so kind of like what this was partly about. They had a setback, but I believe their partnership with their companion animal and service dog actually helped them to come back. Because you're right, there is some sort of societal thing sometimes, in not all cases, but I felt that to be a very compelling statement. And just briefly, there's 23 stories, but could you share, maybe, I don't want to say one of your favorites because I know they must all be your favorites, but could you share briefly maybe one of the stories with us?
Yeah. Like you said, it's very hard for me to single one out because each of them were extraordinary in their own unique way. And I think also a reader could read one and be touched differently than the next reader who reads a different one, depending on where we're all at in our own life journeys. But that being said, my process was, I would connect with a veteran, I would listen to their story, I would then, write it, send them drafts, and we would make edits accordingly. And typically the initial listening to a story would average hour and a half. And this particular veteran, we actually spent closer to 6 to 7 hours together over the course of completing his story. And at one point, he shared with me how I have to kind of pause because I still think about, he shared with me the depth of the hopelessness he reached when he had just started with his service dog. They were in training together. And he took his service dog out to the woods.
I know where you. Oh my gosh! This is yes.
And his service dog, this dear veteran, I think, was in a place that, on one hand he knew what his plan was, on the other he wasn't necessarily conscious of where he was, and so he was sitting by a tree and kind of came into the moment with his service dog licking him in the face. And that was the first story, even though I was drawn to write these stories because of the statistic, it was the first story that someone had actually told me where they stood at an edge of hopelessness and found hope again. And that, I think it's always when we give, we receive. And I received so much in that moment, not only of his trust to tell me that, but just the wave of hope through this kind of healing bond really moved me.
I know which story you're talking about. That was very moving. And as I said, these are all enlightening stories. So listeners, as you read this book, I think that it's going to fill your heart, but it will also fill your mind. It's very, very enlightening. Where can the listeners go, Christine, to learn more about you, to learn more about your work, your very inspiring work, and also to learn more about and where they can get Hope Has a Cold Nose?
Yeah, absolutely. So perhaps the easiest is if you went to ChristineHassing.com. There is information there about me. There's links to the different social media pages that I try to send information to. There's a link to subscribe to emails. I send out a monthly blog. And you can go to Amazon. You can go to Barnes & Noble. You can also go to Balboa Press directly. And if none of those options work, you can also email me. I can gladly ship copies personally to you as well. And I would, if I may also share, if you do get the book, you will find on the back cover a web page to Northwest Battle Buddies. They are a service dog provider. They train service dogs. They provide it to veterans. They're one of many phenomenal organizations. The reason I'm singling them out is they were so instrumental in providing the stories to me. And so they have a wealth of information on their webpage on the healing benefits of service dogs. So if you wanted to learn more, they are certainly the experts when it comes to the training and all of those pieces. So if I may, also share that.
Well, that was very helpful because I did see that throughout their stories, the Northwest Battle Buddies. Now, before we go, is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners?
You know, I think if I may connect to I call it your mantra, your mission, but always loving your pets because they love you unconditionally. And the word that strikes me so deeply is unconditional. And not just the unconditional love that we receive from, our pets, but the unconditional listening. And I think that what I learned even more with the honor of co-authoring with 23 individuals this book is the value of unconditionally listening to people's stories. And it doesn't mean that we always have to understand them or agree with them. I think the hardest thing for us as human beings is to look grief in the eye. It's hard for us to listen to stories of pain or loss or sorrow. But if we can hold that space and listen unconditionally, we help the healing process for others.
Wow, that's beautiful. Christine, I want to thank you so much for being our guest today and for helping to voice these amazing veterans' inspiring stories, educating and sharing a different point of view, inspiring others who may be experiencing self-defeat in any way, and bringing awareness to those furry companions who will listen and who will love unconditionally. So for more information on this amazing book, Hope Has a Cold Nose, please visit Christine Hassing, that's ChristineHassing.com. Christine, thank you so much for being our guest today.
My honor. Thank you.
We would like to thank our guests this week. And also, as our Doggy Divas always say, please love your pets because they love you unconditionally. And please remember to adopt, foster, spay, neuter, and microchip. And as always, please have a great Diva week, everyone.
That's all for this episode of the Doggy Diva Show. To find out more, go to our website, thedoggydiva.com. Also, find us on our Facebook page, The Doggy Diva Show, and tell your fellow dog lovers about it. Don't miss Susan Marie, Miss Olive, and the Doggy Divas right here for the next episode. See you again soon.
Let's Talk Pets, every week on demand, only on PetLifeRadio.com.